These are complicated times. So many decisions to make, so much uncertainty, so much insecurity. And yes, I know that's part of being human, but this feels different. It feels like crossroads, like an inflection point between radically different worlds. Hi, I'm Bojan First, and you are listening to Futures Possible. At this time of uncertainty, I ask my guests to imagine a future and themselves in it. My first guest is very special. I'm going to let her introduce herself.
My name is Jo Nelson, Jo Reese Nelson. I'm retired as a professional group process facilitator. I worked for 52 years before I retired. I have lived all over the planet, and I consider myself a global citizen.
What Jo did not tell you is that she's the lead editor of a book called The Art of Focused Conversation. Focused conversation is a method that empowers groups of people to work through problems they encounter. I did that kind of work for years in communities across rural Newfoundland and Labrador. I thought it would be interesting to turn that method into an interview guide. Jo was thrilled when I told her what I wanted to do, and she asked if she could be the guinea pig. How could I say no? So this is the future Jo imagined.
I spent a lot of time, though, imagining 5 years from now. And although I'm in utter despair these days, I know that what you imagine, what you envision and articulate is more likely to happen. It's like prayer, because it has to do with naming and asking what you want to see in the world. I think the universe was kind of telling me that I needed to do that. Well, I'm 76. So 5 years from now, I will be 81. And I have 81-year-old friends. So imagining what I want to be, I want to still be physically active at 81. I want to be living in my own house. I want to be active enough to be in charge of my own life. I'm intending to be able to get out and walk down the street. And I live in a place where most of the necessities of life are within walking distance. And I intend to continue to do that. That's what I'm intending. And I think of the vision as something I'm intending, not just something I hope for, although I slip into that every once in a while. So I'm continuing to get as much exercise as I can, although in the ice, I'm not out there walking, not taking risks. I might use my hiking sticks more on the, at 81, probably will. But I also intend to be in nature. So I live in downtown Toronto, but there are parks and streams and river valleys and beautiful spaces where you can't see any houses in the middle of Toronto. And I intend to be out in those as much as possible. They make me whole. There's a community consultation coming up, top down, unfortunately, that about a giant housing project going up in there. Not a nonprofit one, a for-profit condo building. And we've just had one, another block over, and a block the other direction too. So it's becoming much more intensely urban, which is okay with me, because I'd rather have, and in my vision, the density is not taking over farmland or green space. I mean, it's not we get more kids for Halloween when we've got condos with small families in them, right? And I love Halloween. Of course, I'm a witch for Halloween. You know, the Diane across the street and Mary across the street and Melissa and I, we call ourselves the Witches of Westlake. Mary and Diane and I are all elders, and witches have to do with wise women elders. I've had to convince them that that's really what a witch means. And Melissa played a witch in one of the television programs, and so we said, "Okay, you're younger, but you can be a witch with us." So we're the four witches of Westlake. I mean, 5 years from now, I don't know if Diane will still be around here. Mary is my age, but I'm hoping that their families continue to be friends and neighbors, and also the others that I haven't named that are on my end of the street. But I hope that continues because I really enjoy having the kids there. You know, that's the time of the year, the only time of the year where doors are open to children in the neighborhood. And I love that. And that's the kind of sense of community I want to continue in my neighborhood. I built a little tiny front porch in my little tiny front yard that it's more like it's halfway between a deck and a porch. And I sit out there every morning when it's warm enough. And I hope that continues for 5 years. I'm intending that to continue so that I say good morning to my neighbors every day in the summer. I really appreciate the technology that connects us globally and cheaply. I hope that it doesn't continue to support billionaires who tie up all of the resources. My ancestors came from Sweden and got letters once or twice a year. Essentially, people were, if they moved from one place to another, they lost all contact. I really envision that we can continue to widen our world by being in contact with people across the planet. And inshallah, it will be with people that we don't usually now talk to. It won't be with people that just like us, I want to see a world that is open, that is accepting, that listens to each other. I want to see a world where people are participating in decisions that affect their lives, that the leadership is actually asking for their input rather than telling them what they think and trying to get them to agree with whatever the leader says. I've really committed my life to participation from the grassroots up, and I want to see that increase. My father was an extraordinary person. He loved politics because it was grassroots people making decisions about things that affected their lives. I took that to heart. Now, my dad wanted me to be the first American woman president, but unfortunately, I was a page in the legislature at age 16 and saw the nasty stuff that went on in the back rooms. It was hidden in those days. It wasn't out in the front in those days. And I saw all of that nastiness going on, and I never went back. But what I did do is take my father's vision of ordinary people making decisions that affected their lives and started working with doing that in communities. My vocation is building bridges between people. Right now, going through a bunch of old files, and the stories are coming up of places that I learned how to deal with things like polarization in a facilitated event more than once, which is something that we badly need right now. And it's something that I'm working on, trying to work processes and methods to help people come together across polarization, understand each other's thinking, if not agree, at least understand each other and respect each other. This is where I have the most trouble really envisioning positively. 5 years from now, the American presidential term will be over for a year. That doesn't mean anything exactly in this current time. But I do see people being generous with each other. I see people opening up to some of the destructiveness that's going on. And I do think that, I've got this quote in front of me from Margaret Mead: "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." And I think that's going to happen. Protests maybe, but not protests, just building relationships. But I think that one of the things that needs to happen to make that happen is that people need to experience what other people are experiencing. I feel like it's tenuous. I feel like it's possible. I feel like it is going to require a lot of intervention to make it happen. And inshallah, it will happen. What's tenuous about it? There are all kinds of destructive forces that are working against that. It feels like they're very powerful. I don't know who's winning it. I don't live in win-lose exactly. Yeah. And I think one of the greatest challenges in Western civilization is that we see things in dualisms, right, wrong, us, them, good, bad, win, lose, where I think the universe is more like a diamond with many dimensions to it. And the more of those that we can see, that we acknowledge, the better. I did at one point, after a very polarized facilitation event, have a mystical experience kind of thing. I saw the forces of healing and destructiveness as they were going on in the world around me. In the end, I saw that I had been chosen to be on the side of the healing forces for no reason of my own. I experienced humility is not, lashing yourself. Humility is discovering that you are part of something that you didn't choose, that is much larger than you. And you don't know why, but you're grateful, but you also feel this immense responsibility. It forces you almost literally to your knees. And that was the experience that I had. Now that's part of that underlying story of who I am and why I do what I do. That gives me commitment. That keeps me going. But what gives me hope is that there are colleagues out there. There are people who understand their role in healing, however they understand it, that their role in healing and bringing society together, the world together. And that when we find each other, that we can be this small group of thoughtful, committed citizens. Ask the why questions, but ask them with curiosity. When people say something that you absolutely don't agree with, something in their lives brought them to that place. Why do they think this? I mean, it's the carrying out of that working assumption that everyone has wisdom, and we will listen to it. There are no wrong answers, but because underneath that, somebody came to that answer, whether it's, you may not agree with it, it may not even be true, but underneath it, they came from some experience that brought them to it. And asking the why question with curiosity rather than, why the hell do you think that? Allows people to look at their own position and understand themselves as well as you understanding it. What's my next step? Well, I'm trying to create a conversation for people to have with their neighbors about things going on, about the issues they have. I'm thinking, if you brought your neighbors together at kitchen table dialogue, just around a cup of tea, and you ask, how could you have a conversation about what's going on so that you could hear what people really wanted for themselves and to do, and also for their leaders to do? I haven't quite worked it out, because figuring out what the tangible beginning point is that has objective data that you can, the part of the problem is that we have screwed around with objective data so much that it's hard to find people who have even seen the same thing. And so I haven't quite figured out how you do this, but I'm working on conversations for people to have with neighbors. And then the idea of that is that if a lot of people did this and you had some idea of what ordinary people wanted, then you could send these to political leaders or whatever other leaders, probably political, because that's the decision-making pole, and say, this is what ordinary people want. It would be to your advantage as a leader to actually be in touch with what people want. But I haven't quite worked out the kinks in this. It's also challenging because people are used to saying, oh, well, the politicians should solve everything for me. Somebody else should do this. I shouldn't have to clean my sidewalk after the snow. The city is supposed to clean my sidewalk. Well, malish, too bad. They didn't, so let's clean each other's sidewalks. If we can, If I can provide the impetus for respect and openness and generosity and an honoring of each other, then that's who I want to be in history.
Thank you for listening. That was John Nelson, a mentor to generations of facilitators working with communities around the world. I am Bojan First, and you listened to Futures Possible. I talk with my guests about the futures and a way of being they can imagine for themselves in this time of uncertainty. You can find Futures Possible wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you would like to leave a comment or support the show, visit futurespossible.com. Take care.